Alright, what is going on, everybody? I wanted to give you guys a kind of like a Jeep Cherokee XJ, buyer's guide here. What kind of to look for if you are buying, one of these old Jeeps. A lot of these are getting older now. Last year they made them was 2001, so, they're getting pretty old. The newest one now is what, 17 years old, 18 years old, something like that. So, they're getting old. So trying to find one that's, decent in condition and not rotted out or anything like that is, it's getting more difficult depending on where you live and stuff. But I wanted to give you guys, a little bit of a buyer's guide here, what to look for. So sorry about the wind noise if there is any. I still don't have a windsock for my camera, so fortunately it might be windy in certain spots, but I'll try to do my best to avoid it. Now obviously I drove it here. I don't park the car out here in the middle of the woods, so I've already driven it. But when you first go to look at a car, the first thing you should do before you do anything is, just check everything out. Check underneath, check the interior out, kind of look around, see the condition of it. So let's just pretend it's my first time looking at the car, right? I'm just gonna walk up to it. Now, obviously, if I bought the Jeep looking like this, I would know he took it out in the woods, clearly, has mud all over, but let's say it was completely clean, all right? Just check underneath. See if he's got, mud tucked up in places and, things that shouldn't be there. See what kind of condition it is. Check the floors. Like, this has brand new floors, except for this one. The ceiling original one, but all the other floors have all been replaced. Just check underneath. Like, obviously my rocker's getting rusted out here. Need a new rocker. That's not a big deal. It's not going to affect drivability, but, just check the underneath condition, because if it's completely rotted out, some things you can replace the floors, there's some things you can replace, but there's other things you can't. Like, if certain support spots are like this right here, like if this is all rotted out, the support for your frame, like for the leaf spring there, like the Jeep is pretty much shot. You can't really fix that. I guess you can, but all the money you're gonna put into it's just not even worth it. So just check all that out. Check out the exhaust. As you can see, mine is hanging off there. Obviously you'll be able to tell once you start it. But just check out the frame, check everything underneath, make sure the floors aren't rotted out. Rot is a big killer of the Jeeps here. The rust really takes a toll on them. So, you guys, I did a video when I bedlined my floors, but, obviously the cars were ripped out. The floors were put in at some point by somebody, so, it did have new floors put in, but. So just check out the underside, see if anything's leaking. Obviously, you're not going to really tell now on mine because it's got a bunch of water on it and stuff and everything else. But check underneath, see if, it's leaking by the axle, by the seal there, where the drive shaft connects. Check on both sides. Check the transfer case. See if the transfer case up there is leaking, transmission oil. I'm sure it's going to leak oil. They all leak oils. But they really shouldn't have any other leaks besides oils and maybe like pinion seals for the axles. Will leak from there too. But usually the transmissions don't leak. The transfer cases might leak a little tiny bit, not really. So if everything's leaking, it's it's kind of unfortunate. But I wouldn't necessarily walk away from one that's leaking in every single spot. It's not a deal breaker, but just something you can kind of knock down the price on the vehicle. We'll pop the hood. That's usually what I do. I always look underneath, pop the hood. I'll check out the interior. As you can see, the interior, like when I first bought this, it was pretty clean. Didn't have any dirt in it. It was a pretty clean vehicle. I don't think it was ever out in the woods. So just kind of look out for spots where, you can clean an interior really good and make it look like it was never off-road, but there's kind of certain spots where you can't really get, like in here. If you see some dirt in here and stuff, I have a little bit, mine's still pretty clean because I usually keep my windows closed. But someone that really mudded the crap out of it, they'll get mud in these vents here. It's kind of hard to clean out. There's certain areas where mud will gather. You can't really clean. Where else? In the door jambs. I guess you can kind of clean in the door jambs too, but I'd say the vents. That's is the biggest giveaway. This could be super clean, but if there's mud in these vents, they're mudding the crap out of it in the air vents. But let's pop the hood, because the hood you can clean up pretty good too. You can make it seem like it was never out in the woods and this thing was completely swamped out. You know what I mean? Pop open the hood here. Extremely heavy. Oh. Oh yeah, if you guys don't know, Jeep hoods are kind of... Alright, there you go. We got the hood open now. Look underneath here, you know, see if everything, all the hoses are intact. See if everything looks operational and okay. You know, keep a lookout for anything that's leaking. As you can see, my power steering pump is leaking a little bit. That's actually pretty common on these. A lot of times the power steering pump will leak. So, it's not the end of the world, but something just to kind of keep in mind. You know, check everything out. Make sure everything is still intact here. Like, everything's pretty good. You know, and check for dirt. You know, obviously I have dirt in this. I take it out in the woods. You know, it's going to get dirty. I mean, it is what it is. I'd say one thing to check out for on these is open up the air cleaner. Okay. If there's a bunch of oil in there, that means you're getting a lot of blow-by. If it's fairly clean, then you're okay. My air box, for some reason, is a pain in the ass. I don't normally like to take this off, but I'll do it for the sake of the video. Alright, hang on 1 second, guys. I gotta get this off. So there you go. My air filter's pretty clean. If you have a lot of blow-by in the motor, the filters, you know, right around where the vent tube is there, you'll get a bunch of oil all over the place. I have a little bit of oil, but that's normal. It's, you know what I mean? I think it's clogged, to be quite honest with you. Those get clogged and it can do that too. So I think that's why I get a little bit of oil. I don't think I have any blow-by, but if it's really excessive, like if you look, see I have a slight bit of oil there, but I think that's clogged, like this pipe right here. So I think it's why I kind of get some oil on there. Because it doesn't really burn oil or do anything. That's another thing, before you start it, check the tip of the exhaust. See if, you can't check on mine, but if it's real, like you got a bunch of stuff in the exhaust, like a lot of black smoke and stuff, that could be a sign of it running too rich, or, you know, could also be burning oil too if there's actually oil in the exhaust pipe. So kind of check that out too. I mean, that's pretty much it for under the hood. There's not really too much else to check. Really, just check the fluids. Check your oil. You want it to be a nice brown color. You want it to be up the level. If you have an automatic transmission, check the transmission stick. It should be over here in the back, I believe, or maybe on, yeah, I think it's in the back over there. Check the transmission dipstick. Make sure the fluid's good. If it looks really like dark and burnt, I'll be honest, I'd walk away from it. That means that trans was never taken care of, and it's only a matter of time before it goes. So I don't know. Me personally, if the trans looked really bad, like the fluid, I'd walk away from it. I don't care how low the miles was. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was like a 50,000 mile Jeep or something, and they wanted, like, you know, $1,500 or some ridiculous price. I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and jump on it, but, you know, good luck trying to find that deal. So if the guy's asking like a normal price for a Cherokee and the transmission fluid looks like crap, I'd walk away. I wouldn't even buy it. For manuals, obviously you can't check the trans fluid. There's a reservoir here for the master cylinder. Just, you know, check that. Make sure the fluid's good. That takes .3 brake fluid. Check your brake fluid in here. You know, just check all the fluids. Everything should look good. The coolant should be a nice green color. If the coolant is like a swampy looking color, I guess you can't see it in here, but if it's got a bunch of like gunk underneath the radiator cap and inside of here, they probably ran stop leak. That's not good. That means there's an issue somewhere, whether it's the radiator or a hose or something. So definitely check the coolant too, because these also like to overheat. So you always want to make sure you have good coolant in here, clean, the right coolant. You don't want Dex Cool or some garbage like that. So that's another thing too. Just make sure you got all the right coolants in here. That's pretty much it for under the hood. I'll start it up. Let me put this air cleaner back in. I'll start it up, and then it's another thing you can check for dirt too. Been off-roading. There's a bunch of dirt in here. You know, they've obviously been going off-roading. Mine isn't that bad. I actually do have some water splashed up in here, but nothing's gone into my intake, which is good. So I never, you know, swamped it out and sucked a bunch of water in. So I'll start it up in a second here, and then we'll listen for some noises. All right, so now that we got the air cleaner back on, everything all hooked back up, we'll start it up. Now, once again, I've been driving it, but when it's warm, it'll make the same sound, just not as pronounced. So we'll just keep an eye out for sounds here. Now clearly, I have a muffler, but it's partly broken right behind it, so listen to the motor. It sounds pretty good. There's a little bit of clatter. I think it's the timing chain that makes a little bit of a noise up front. Not a big deal. They'll get loose as they get older, you know. Mine does this too for some reason. There we go. When you start it up, for whatever reason, my Jeep, when you start it up when it's cold, it runs fine. But if like you let it sit for a little bit and then start it back up, it will get like a really low idle and want to stall out. Sometimes it will. Other times it will catch itself and idle back up. But that's one thing that it does. But when you start it up, check for smoke. See if it's burning any oil. As you can see, it's not burning anything. It looks fine. No blue smoke coming out. You know, you want to check for that. Even if you rev it up at a standstill, it's not burning any oil, so that's pretty good. Now, when it's cold for the oil pressure, you want it to be around like 70 psi. When it's warmer, it usually goes down to about 40, so the oil pressure looks good. The temperatures look good. I mean, the temperatures you'll see once you drive it around. If it starts getting real hot, then you'll have an overheating issue, but if it stays right around 210 or below 210, you're perfectly fine. You know, those are definitely, if it gets past 210, then you have an overheating problem. I mean, it can get a little past that, but when it starts going up to like 220, then you're really in trouble, so. Just walk around, see if you hear anything weird. You know, you want to make sure the transfer case works. You know, put it in neutral and then put it in the four-wheel drive, and then keep it in neutral, put it in the four-wheel drive low. As you can see the different levers there. You got four-wheel drive and then neutral, for low. Just go through all the, you know, make sure it's a neutral automatic. Just put it in park. I think you can put it in park. I don't know, I forget. So it's automatic, I think just put it in park and then just, you know, go through 4 high, 4 low. Just see if they work, you know. As long as it works, you should be okay. Make sure there's no weird noises or anything like clunking or... Now normally you let it sit for a couple minutes, then drive it, and then let it sit again for a little while to see if there's anything weird, but I've already driven it, so it might, you know, it's kind of hard to show you that. Now my Jeep, when I drive it, it makes some clunking underneath. I think it's my drive shafts. I'm not sure yet. It didn't really do it when I bought it. I think, you know, from off-roading, I've something underneath is a little unhappy, but it's not a big deal. Depending on what you're going to use it for, I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, it's been clunking for 8 months now, whatever noise it is, and it hasn't left me stranded yet. So, I mean, knock on wood here, but so far, I've been okay. Depending on what you use the vehicle for, you know, that may not matter. Like, if it's making some noise underneath or whatever, and you're going to use it out in the woods, it doesn't really matter, because when it breaks, you just put a new part on. But if you're going to be using this as like a daily driver, you know, you may not want to be dealing with, you know, clunking and all that stuff underneath. You want to make sure you have a nice, solid, reliable daily driver, you know, because these can be great daily drivers. It's just they're getting kind of old now, and a lot of people have beat on them, and they're lifted, and, you know, all different kinds of stuff now with them. So trying to find just a super clean, low mileage stock one they're a little bit harder to come by than they were, you know, even just 10 years ago. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't really know what else to show you guys. I mean, check the hatch. If you have the new style ones, usually the hatches will act up. The older ones seem to be okay. As you can see, my hatch works fine. You know, check in the back here for rot. I have rot, obviously. I got to put new floor pan, new trunk pan here. Like I said, rot is a big killer on these Jeeps. I mean, the rot isn't that bad. The guy replaced the floors up front, or actually all the floors besides one. The only thing that's really rusty at this point is my hatch, and it's not the worst. It's still here. I've seen times where like the hatch isn't even here, like it's just gone. So as long as I completely rotted out and it runs good and everything, it's a pretty, you know, everything else should be okay with it. You know, these are fiberglass. Check for cracks and damage anything like that, because it's kind of hard to fix fiberglass. I mean, I guess you could try to do it, but I don't know. I would imagine it's kind of expensive. Maybe I'm wrong. But you see, I have a little bit of a crack right here. I think it's like a stress crack. Not a big deal. But I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, you guys, I mean, they're really easy to look for as long as you just don't buy one that wasn't completely beat on. Like this one wasn't completely beat on. I was a normal daily driver. I don't even completely beat on it. I take it out in the woods and stuff, but I don't completely beat on it. Like, don't be afraid to buy one that was taken out in the woods, because I take care of it. I change the oil, change the fluids. Everything's okay with it. A few little things here and there, but as long as you don't completely beat on them and buy one like that. So some people, they red line them and swamp it out and get water in the motor and all kinds of stuff, and you don't want one like that because it's not going to last. But as long as you get one that was taken care of, you know, maybe the guy took it out in the woods or did some camping or whatever, you should be fine. I wouldn't necessarily stay away from one that's been off-road. It's not the end of the world. Ideally, you obviously want one that's never been off-roaded or anything, but, you know, don't necessarily be afraid to buy something like that. As long as you just, you know, make sure the engine's healthy. Like I said, definitely check that air cleaner. That's for the blow-by. You can take the oil cap off too and check. That's another thing. Take the oil cap off. Look on the inside. You know, get like the camera in there. Look on the not camera, but just look on the inside. Like visually, step up and look. If it looks all like gunky in there and whatever else, stay away. Like if the oil looks milky, it's probably may have a head gasket issue. Stay away from any of that stuff. But as long as the oil looks, you know, looks pretty good and there's not a bunch of sludge inside the motor, you should be okay. They do sometimes make a little bit of noise, like mine. Like I said, I think I have a timing chain noise. It's not a big deal. I'm not that worried about it. I think I'll be okay. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you buy one that has a lift, see, you know, what kind of lift he has on there. Hopefully it's a better quality lift, then, you know, you'll save yourself some money, because a lot of times when you put a lift on here, you can increase the price a little bit, but you can't increase the price of what you paid for the lift, so you don't really get your money back putting a lift into these. So if you end up buying one that already has a lift on it, see if it has a good quality lift on there, because you might get yourself a pretty good deal on, you know, a brand new lift kit or even tires. Like if one's all done up, you can save a ton of money. Like I said, kind of depending on what you want to use it for, there's different Jeeps to look for. Like I wanted one that was kind of already ready to go. This one had a 3-inch lift. It's a garbage lift. It's a rough country. But for now, I mean, it's working. I was able to just put bigger tires on here for now. You know, once I get some money, probably sometime next year, I'm going to put a much better lift on here. Much better lift on here. But for now, it's doing the job. And, you know, it's been holding its own, I guess. Alright, so here's the cold portion of the video. I already started it up. So, but when you start it up, just, you know, look for some weird noise in the motor. A cold motor will tell you a lot. You know, it doesn't really make any noise, this motor, so it's alright, but it's something, just try to, you know, try to just pay attention to the noise and the sounds. Look for like ticking or knocking or anything weird. You'll still hear the noise when it's warm, but it's a lot more profound when it's cold. So, but once we get to the, well, I don't know how I'm gonna put this video in order yet, but depending on where I put it, I'll start it up on the outside. That stupid rice burner Honda always drives up and down the street. But I have a 5-speed manual, the AX15. Now, when it's cold, depending on the condition of the trans, you may notice, you know, different ways that it shifts. Mine, for example, second and third, it doesn't grind, but it has raking. My synchros are going bad on my transmission. Like right there, it didn't really do it. It went in kind of smooth. You're probably not going to hear it in video, but you'll feel a grind. It almost grinds a little bit. Like right there going to the third, I felt that it grinds a little bit. It's not grinding, it's just the synchros are kind of worn out and it's not going in the gear properly. Not that big a deal. Just keep in mind, you know, if you do have a manual and it does that when it's cold, you know, your synchro synchros might be getting, oh, did it right there, you may have heard that. You just get a little tired, you know? I mean, mine has 230,000 miles on it. It's to be expected on a, you know, a transmission. I wouldn't necessarily make it something that you stay away from when buying one. You know, to rebuild one of these transmissions, new synchros, maybe even new gears, new clutch, which say you had to do a complete full rebuild on it, like from ground up, brand new rebuild. You know, you're probably talking like $1,000, not $100, which really isn't that bad considering. You could buy a used one if you really wanted, but I would just get it rebuilt. That way you have your, you know you have all brand new parts in there. But when you drive around, just, you know, you want to go through all the gears. I mean, obviously I'm on a street here, I'm not going to be able to go through all the gears, but, you know, try to, if you can on your test drive, go through all the gears. The ones that are going to get worn out the most are going to be second and third. You know, if you're going to have issues, it's probably going to be with those gears, maybe even first. But usually second and third of the gears are going to be your issues. So as long as it goes through, you know, 1 through 3 pretty good, 4 and 5 should be fine. It's an automatic, just make sure it goes through all the gears properly. With an automatic, it's probably more obvious, you know. You'll notice an issue with the transmission, it'll be much more obvious. Usually autos, once they're going bad, they're going bad. You can't really, like, drive them around, you know. At least with a manual, you can skip gears or whatever. You can kind of feather a little bit. As an automatic, if it's going bad, you'll definitely know, so. But once it warms up a little bit, we'll, you know, open it up a little bit, and we'll be at our destination. We're doing a little bit of a, not pull, but a little bit warmed up now, so we'll. You know, I shifted out like 3,500 RPM there, you know, 3,000, 3,500. I wouldn't go past like 4 grand. I mean, I guess you could go to like 4 or 5. I mean, I got 230,000 miles on mine, so I don't have to go past 4 grand, but it should pull pretty decent. You know, it shouldn't be a real slouch. I mean, depending on if you buy one that has, you know, aftermarket tires on it, you know, the different gearing and stuff. Like if you put 33-inch tires on a manual compared to an auto, it might be a little bit slower because the gearing's a lot lower. Right here, I'll downshift. Goes in the gear all right, you know. So when it comes to buying Jeeps, different tires and gear ratios are going to affect how good it pulls, but it shouldn't like really hesitate really unless it's got really big tires and stock gears. I mean, obviously then it's not going to pull that good, but if it's got like under 33-inch tires, you know, 31s or something, it should still pull okay. It shouldn't be horrible. So just kind of look out for that. If it's an automatic, I'd say get up, I don't know, get up to around like 30 miles an hour or so. Just give it a good punch, see how well it, you know, downshifts and everything. As long as it, you know, seems to downshift okay and everything, then it should be okay. A manual, like I said, you know, you can kind of take off in different gears and do different things. Manual's a little more forgiving when it comes to like if they're damaged, so it might be a little more difficult trying to find problems with a manual than an automatic. As long as it goes the gear smooth and it downshifts and does everything fine, the clutch is okay, it should be alright, just general rule of thumb. This goes in the gear fine. You know, I had it up like 3,500. It didn't sound weird. It wasn't like backfiring or doing anything weird. It was pulling pretty good. So, motor seems okay. Check out for things like that. Shift around like 2 grand, 2,500 is usually when I shift. Obviously, if an auto is going to do it automatically for you. But you gotta mix it up. You gotta do, you know, you gotta drive it somewhat hard. You gotta kind of open it up a little bit and drive it. And it's also good to drive it like normal too, to kind of see, you know, how it's going to drive. Because sometimes when you're on a car, it seems to drive okay, but when you're in idle or something, it acts weird, or lower RPMs, it acts weird. So you really want to try to drive in all aspects of, you know, driving the car. Like right now, I'm just cruising around normal. some mixed driving. Just, we'll, you know, check the fluids. We'll do that when we get to the spot. We'll check all the fluids and everything. Obviously do that before you drive it. You also want to check it afterwards too, but let's, you know, we'll get to my spot here, and then we'll, I think the other part's gonna be the first part of this video, so. One thing I forgot to mention too, is the years to buy. Now if you're gonna buy an old style Jeep like the one that I have like the first style. If you're gonna buy one of those in an automatic, doesn't really matter what year you get, just don't get an 84, 85. They don't have the straight 6. They have like a GM V6. It's garbage. Don't buy those. They're not reliable, they're not torquey, they're not anything, they're just trash. So just stay away from them, don't even buy them. You want an 86, anything from 86 to 01 is okay. Different things you want to stay away from. If you're gonna buy like an 89, or actually 89 is okay, but if you buy like an 86, 87, or 88, don't buy one in a manual, because they don't have the AX15 manual trans. They had the Peugeot BA10, whatever it is. It's not a good transmission. They don't last. You're gonna have issues with it. I wouldn't even buy a 5-speed in those years. I think from 86 to 88 they had the Peugeot, and then in 89 I think they switched to the AX15 in the 6-cylinder. If you have the 4-cylinder, you get an AX5, which really isn't that strong either, but it's okay for the 4-cylinder. But once you start putting bigger tires stuff, they don't last. So ideally you want to get the straight 6 with the AX15 manual trans, which started in at least for the AX15, the manual started in I think 89 or definitely 1990. So if you're getting a 5-speed, look at one of those, and then anything past that's okay. In 2000, I think, they switched. They got rid of the AX15, and they used the MV 3500, I think. It's an okay transmission. There's a lot of debate which one's better. Some people say that one's stronger. Some people say the AX15 is stronger. There's really a debate. I don't know. I've never driven one, so I don't know. All I know is the AX15 is a pretty solid trans. You can't really go wrong with either, I'd say. These are easier to get parts for. They're cheaper to rebuild, as the newer ones apparently are more durable, but they're kind of harder to rebuild and harder to get parts for. So kind of keep that in mind. If you're getting an automatic, anything past 86, you'll be fine. So 84, 85 avoid. Anything 86 and up, if it's an automatic, you're fine. Now I wouldn't get a 4-cylinder, the 2.5. You can, but they're not really that much more fuel efficient. They're not really much of anything. They're just slower. I mean, it's really about it. They're slower. I say the reliability is about the same. I'd say the 4.0 is a little bit more proven than the 2.5, but that's because a lot more people use the 4.0 compared to the 4-cylinder. So that's personally what I'll look for. I'll look for the straight 6 with either the automatic AW4 or the AX15 manual. Transfer cases, there's 2 different transfer cases. There's the MP231, which is what I have. It's 4 high and then 4 low. There's another transfer case that's full-time 4-wheel drive and then part-time 4-wheel drive. I'd stay away from those. They're not quite as durable, and they're also don't have the same aftermarket support. So if you're daily driving it, that's fine, not gonna have an issue. But if you're gonna off-road it, I'd look for the MP231. You'll see a little tag on the transfer case. And also, if you just look, if it looks like this, you know, 2 high, 4 high, then 4 low, that's the MP231 trans. That's not trans. That's a transfer case. That's going to be a better transfer case. I think that's pretty much it that I can think of. 2000, 2001 Jeeps, they have cylinder head issues. They can crack. Not a big deal, but if you get one at a good price, I'd buy one. But let's say you find a 1999 and then you find a 2001 that have like the same miles, same almost everything, and they're same price, I would just go ahead and go with the 99. Don't go with the 2000, 2001. You can get them. My girlfriend has 2001. Her cylinder head did crack. We bought, you know, the cylinder head for it, and then her uncle replaced it. It wasn't that expensive. I think it came out to like $600, $700, but that's a $700 you could put somewhere else. That could be towards tires or bumpers, you know, whatever. So that's a year to stay, you know, not stay away from, but just kind of be a little bit more weary of. Also, 97s, do not buy a 1997 Jeep. Just don't buy it. I don't care how good the price is. Don't buy a 1997. They have a bunch of electrical issues. They have problems galore. The motor and trans, everything's okay, but I ran out of space on my memory card. So I'll wrap it up real quick. Just stay away from 1997. They have electrical issues. They're just not worth buying. I don't care if it has a crazy lift on it and tires and all this stuff done to it. The amount of electrical issues you're going to deal with, if you're good at electrical stuff, then I guess go ahead and do it. But personally, I hate anything when it comes to electrical issues. I avoid them like the plague. I hate that. I've actually had a couple little electrical things with this, and it's annoying as it is. And these years are okay, so I can't even imagine owning a 97. So I would just stay away from a 97. I don't care how good the deal is, whatever. Just don't buy it. That's the only year besides the 84 and 85s that I completely avoid. So you got 84, 85, and 97. Just avoid them. Don't get them. Anything before or after is okay. If you don't care about emissions or anything like that, get a later model. If you don't care that you have to inspect it, then go ahead and just buy a later model. But if you get a 1995 and older, you don't have to inspect it, so you can straight pipe it, do whatever you want, not have an issue, not have to worry about inspection. So another thing to keep in mind too. That's pretty much it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Take care.